Okay, it looks like we are now live in YouTube, and I'm also live on Facebook. I am simulcasting, so yay. I'm always a little bit nervous about this part of it because I'm never really sure if it's going to work, but it looks like we are good to go. Good evening. I'm Rosanna Tufts from wisdomofthecosmos.com. And we are about to start a ritual that will help us keep our footing and keep our heads in times of great chaos and cultivate the intelligence that is possible with the eclipsing shadow planets. The last time you saw me do one of these, I still had to wear a wig, but now my post-chemo hair has grown out enough. Yay! I can do without the wig now, so let's get started. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Release all the cares of the day. Be here now. Take another deep breath. Breathe in the cold, clear air of oncoming winter, waking up your mind. And breathe out all of the confusion of trying to live up to expectations that may not be truly yours. Be here now. Take a third deep breath, deepest one yet. Breathe in warmth this time, the warmth of people you love, the warmth of your own hearth fire, the warmth of a delicious meal made from the harvest of the year. And breathe out. Nothing else matters but what you have right here in this moment. Be here now. Om Gam Ganapatayei namaha. Om Gam Ganapatayei namaha. Om Gam Ganapatayei namaha. Great Ganesha, clear a path with your great elephant's trunk that our human prayers may reach the ears of the gods. Ye lords of the watchtowers of the east, spirits of air, I do summon, stir, and call you up to witness this rite and guard our circle. Give us discernment to scrutinize our pains, to speak with kindness and detachment, and to tell false from true, seeing clearly through the smoke of illusion. Hail and welcome. Ye lords of the watchtowers of the south, spirits of fire, I do summon, stir, and call you up to witness this rite and guard our circle. Grant us true will, not driven by the past, to act with courage, not in hate or disgust, to act in faith, not fear, nor rash impulse. Hail and welcome. Ye lords of the watchtowers of the west, spirits of water, I do summon, stir, and call you up to witness this rite and guard our circle. Make our minds as still as a moonlit pond, that we may float upon a current of forgiveness, gently restoring truth and bliss to our souls. Hail and welcome. Ye lords of the watchtowers of the north, spirits of earth, I do summon, stir, and call you up to witness this rite and guard our circle. Help us to keep our heads and sure-footed as we walk through shadows, standing firm and strong upon the stone. Hail and welcome. We call upon our ancestors, the mighty heroes of our blessed dead. Your prejudices that were yet unhealed, your obsessions that were still unsatisfied, we have incarnated to fulfill them. But we may not know what drives us because of the veil of forgetfulness. Guide us now as we strive to restore karmic justice. Hail and welcome. We offer up a prayer for the descendants, those whom we love now and those not yet born. You, in your turn, will have to correct the mistakes of your elders, driven by revulsions and obsessions of your own. Yet the solution may not truly be what you think. The discernment of air, the will of fire, the peace of water, the firmness of earth. These are your inheritance to restore karmic justice. Hail and welcome. We call upon the goddess of the moon and the god of the sun, the gods who are female and male, and we call upon the gods who are both and neither. Ketu, the tail of the dragon, and Rahu, the head of the dragon, the shapeshifters, ever chasing the moon and sun through the heavens. Yet even in their disgust and obsession, Ketu and Rahu have much to teach us. Hail and welcome. The circle is cast. We are between the worlds, beyond the bounds of time and space. Om Aswadh vajaaya vidmahe, Soola Hastaaya Dhiimahi, Tanno Ketu prachodayat. Let us meditate on him who has a horse in his flag, he who has a trident in his hand. Give us higher intellect, and let Ketu illuminate our minds and understanding. Om Nakat Vajaya Vidmahe, Padma Hastaya Dhiimahi, Tanno Rahu Prachodayat. Let us meditate on him who has a snake in his flag, he who has a lotus in his hand. Give us higher intellect, and let Rahu illuminate our minds. Om Ketu, you are enigmatic, animistic, cryptic, telepathic, and eccentric. Seeing all, you are psychic and esoteric. You live in a cave deep underground, freedom-loving, the human spirit unbound. All day and night you live on sacred ground. Mysterious, your treasures are locked in secrecy. Your home is where you are in mendicancy, and the treasure in your heart is privacy. Om Dragon's Tail, the world thinks you are insane, because you constantly dwell upon the arcane until your words remove their mortal chain. Inspiration, the fruit of renunciation, so humble no one expects emancipation, O keeper of the gate to liberation. You see the devas, so your words are enigmatic, esoteric, cryptic, and telekinetic. And you know our secrets because you are telepathic. Om Rahu, you are the darkest hour of night. a shadow being, you always distort the light. And you have no stomach, just an endless appetite. Your twisted thoughts are insane, tainted, and corrupt. Your backward motion makes you disturb and disrupt. Born an asura, you are heartless, uncaring, abrupt. You go too far and then become abusive. Your convoluted plots are so elusive. O master of secrets, your whereabouts are exclusive. Your forward motion is everyone else's reverse. Your normal makes every other thing become converse. Your vrittis twist and turn until all is perverse. You cannot resist the allure of the fraudulent. Outside the laws of nature, you are impermanent. No one can ever trust your perverted intent. Your reputation is notorious, O Rahave. Your way is so scandalous on either side where you live, it is treacherous. Welcome, everyone, to this new moon solar eclipse service. If you've ever been with me on these live streams before, you know that eclipsed new moons have to be handled differently from regular new moons. Normally, you would want to set an intention, plant a seed at the new moon for something you want to bring to fruition during this cycle. But when the sun is cast into shadow by the moon being directly between us and the sun, not slightly above or below, that's not what you should be doing. Because the energies are so disrupted and confused, even explosive. I mean, holy smokes, where do I even start with this one? We could be here all night, but I'm not going to do that to you. The best thing you can do right now is to pray for calmness and clarity. The eclipse actually happens tomorrow, peaking at about 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We're in the dark moon tonight. It's an annular eclipse this time, which creates the ring of fire effect for people who are directly in the eclipse path. People who are further away from the path will see it as a partial. Here in the DC area, we'll only see about 20% coverage. Because the moon is further away from us in its orbit, its disk will appear a bit smaller than the sun, so the sun will not be covered completely. At its peak, the moon will cover 91% of the sun. 91%. Where have we heard that number lately? Oh, yes. 91 felonies facing his ass, 91 felonies. You prosecute one and rump is done. 90 felonies facing his ass. Stick a pin in that one. We're going to come back to it. This eclipse is being caused by Ketu, the south node eclipse shadow. But you may have noticed that I invoked his northern counterpart, Rahu, who will be causing the lunar eclipse 2 weeks from now. That's because I won't be able to host a separate ritual for that, as I'll be camping for Halloween with some friends. So I'm structuring this live stream to cover both the solar and lunar eclipses. These eclipse points are now at exactly 0 degrees of Aries and Libra. There's the one for Aries, there's the one for Libra. Because the nodes always move backwards, they are about to change signs to Pisces and Virgo, which they will in another 6 weeks at the end of November. So this makes the energies even more unsettled than usual for an eclipse being right at the edge of the signs. To make matters even more confusing, the sun and moon are coming together for the new moon at the very end of Virgo. So the eclipse is actually straddling signs with the sun and moon in Virgo, but Ketu's in Libra. The energy's not really in one sign, not really in the other. It's rudderless. Now, what does that remind you of? How about our Congressional House of Representatives being rudderless without a speaker at the helm? They have no direction. They can't get anything done. The dominant party is not only battling against the liberal progressive wing, they're squabbling among themselves too. They can't get it together because their so called Freedom Caucus is going scorched earth, refusing to cooperate with anything. One thing that is clear: the eruption of war in Israel has eclipsed media attention on Trump's multiple indictments. And it happened right after Mars, the planet of war, was conjunct Ketu, the planet of being fed up and not going to take it anymore. Both Mars and Ketu are very uncompromising, all or nothing. Now, if you've never heard of Ketu or Rahu before, here's a quick review. These are the Sanskrit names for the eclipse points where the sun, moon, and earth all line up in three-dimensional space. A Ketu eclipse travels down from northwest to southeast. A Rahu eclipse travels up from southwest to northeast. How they affect your mind is Rahu gives you an obsession for something you can't get enough of. And Ketu gives you a revulsion for something you're so sick of you never want to have to deal with it again. And often these two things are mirror images of each other. Like saying, I'm always going to wear designer clothes from now on, so nobody will ever know I grew up in a trailer park. As an example. See how the Ketu revulsion gives rise to the Rahu obsession? Examine your life for where these two polar opposites might be, for where you think you have to reject all of the Ketu thing in order to have any of the Rahu thing. Now, since this eclipse is straddling either side of two signs, we have both Virgo and Libra-like themes going on. I'm going to take the Virgo side first. In the West, we call Virgo the Virgin, but that's something of a misnomer. The Sanskrit word for the Virgo constellation is Kanya, Kanya, which means girl. It's depicted as a young girl of about 10 or 11 standing in a canal boat. She's holding a sheaf of wheat in one hand and a lantern in the other. She's on her way to the marketplace of Libra, where she will sell her wheat. She needs the lantern so that she can see clearly, so as to avoid unscrupulous merchants who might try to take advantage of her and not give her a fair price for her wheat. She's innocent, but the fact that she's not sexually active yet is beside the point. Now, how have we been seeing that play out in the news? How about the two young women who are now cooperating with prosecutors in the cases against the former guy. Cassidy Hutchinson and Molly Michael, who used to be secretaries to the most powerful people in the land. If Leo is the king, Virgo is the king's functionaries who carry out the nitty-gritty details of the king's orders. Leo is the man in charge. Virgo is the women who know what's going on. So here are these two young women, straight out of college, suddenly vaulted into jobs where they have the favor of the king. I'll bet they could hardly believe their luck. They must have been thrilled to serve such powerful men, to be right where the action is. What a feather on your resume! But in their innocence and naivete of how powerful men can operate, they could be manipulated into doing almost anything, no matter how sketchy. It works for a while, because if their guts tell them there's something unethical about what they're doing, what they're being ordered to do, they don't know how to define it until the cognitive dissonance and the price they're paying becomes too much, and they start wondering, what am I becoming? This isn't what I signed up for. I mean, can you imagine the enormous pressure they must have endured in the name of a false power grab? Ms. Hutchinson still believes she's a Republican. I just want to take her by the hand like a good auntie and say, "Oh, honey, the Republican Party you were brought up to believe in doesn't exist anymore." Is there any witness more dangerous than a young woman who realizes she's been had? Looks like we're about to find out. Keep your popcorn ready. Now let's look at the Libra side of the equation. Symbolized by a set of balance scales, people think, oh, Libra is all about balance, as if balance is the same as peace, love, and harmony. Are you nuts? Look at how easily the scales can tip. Libra can be the most unbalanced of all the signs, because first it'll go to an extreme to counteract another extreme, only to come back to center later. We've already seen that Ketu, a planet of extremes, is there, and so is Mars, the planet of war. Mars will also be combust, traveling too close to the sun throughout the rest of this year, which makes buried resentments explode. What does that remind you of? The Palestinian Hamas attacking Israel and Israel striking back. The factors that have led up to this are many and complicated, with no easy solutions. But one factor that everybody seems to be overlooking, remember, eclipses are also about hidden agendas, is Christian Zionism. It's not just about Jews versus Muslims. Christian Zionists are as much to blame for this as anyone else. Zionism is a belief that got started in the late 1500s, which stated that the Jews deserve to have their ancestral homeland back, so Europeans could get them out of their countries. Then Christians observed that there's a New Testament prophecy that the restoration of Israel would precede the second coming of Christ, which became, hey, we should totally make this happen, so maybe the second coming will come all the faster. Sure sounded like a good idea at the time. So when the British Empire took over Palestine at the end of World War I, after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the Brits and Palestinians agreed to start letting Jews back in. But there was supposed to be a quota, which was routinely ignored over the next 30 years. Americans now, who have been supporting the modern nation state of Israel since 1948, have forgotten that that support is rooted in Zionism. And they've also forgotten that a key part of that eschatology is the wishful thinking that the Jews will all convert to Christianity and then Christ will come back. Yeah, good luck with that. Jews have no intention of furthering any Christian agenda. The New Testament isn't part of their scriptures. Duh! They founded Israel after World War II as a safe place where Jews could be Jews. No more pogroms, no more holocausts. And it looked like Christians had finally figured out that wholesale slaughter is really not a nice thing to do. But to do it, Jews had to displace the people who were already in Palestine and keep them in a state of desperate poverty, much like the removal of Native Americans in our own country. They've been doing to Palestinians the same thing that was done to them for centuries. Did they think the Palestinians would go on like this forever without retaliating? You see the Libra tit for tat that's going on here? And now the Jews are at risk of destroying whatever goodwill the rest of the world might once have had for them, as they're on the verge of creating a humanitarian crisis of unimaginable scale. I cannot rationally support any side in this because wrong has been done and is being done on all sides. I am hoping and praying that the lunar mansion that forms the bridge between Virgo and Libra will give us a clue that can help everybody avoid mutually assured destruction. All three planets of the eclipse, Sun, Moon, and Ketu, are in the lunar mansion of Chitra. This is one of the 27 lunar signs of the older zodiac that runs behind the scenes of the 12 zodiac signs that you already know. There's one for each day in a lunar month. Notice how the Sun and Moon are on the Virgo side of Chitra, and Ketu is on the Libra side of Chitra. The god associated with Chitra is called VishwaKarma, the divine architect. His story is that he gave his daughter Sanja, which means consciousness, to marry the sun god. Until one day, Sanja came back to her father, saying that this marriage wasn't going so well. You see, the sun god was so bright, he was overpowering. Sanja couldn't even get near him. let alone he was over. Sandra couldn't get near him to even have a relationship with him, let alone get on, get it on the way a husband and wife are supposed to. So VishwaKarma said, I have an idea. He took the sun and put him onto his cosmic lathe so he could trim him down to a more manageable size. The sparks and pieces that flew off from the cosmic lathe as he was doing this flew up into the heavens and formed all the other planets in the solar system. Okay, so what might this tell you? Maybe a monolithic Jewish state is not the answer after all, like the overpowering sun? Could the international community come together to establish pockets of Jewish states in various places, like pieces of the sun becoming the other planets, and do it in such a way that they're not ghettos like what they used to have, but nice places that they would actually want to live in? I don't know, but whatever happens, it's time to admit that trying to force the second coming to happen had unintended consequences, to say the least. So as we're going into this eclipse season for the next 2 weeks, stop. Whatever you're doing, think. Use the Virgo's natural logic. Your emotions are not a good guide for you right now. Whatever buried resentments you have, acknowledge that you have them, yes, but also ponder how can you be calm and clear even with them? How you can approach the people who were the source of those resentments without seeking revenge. You might be owed an explanation or an apology, but you don't have to make them suffer the way you have suffered. To help gain clarity and calmness, I'm going to post in the chat box the mantras for Rahu and Ketu. Actually, I don't know where they are. I can put them in the comments once the recording is finished. That's what I'll do. And you can use these as part of your own meditations while the eclipse is happening on Saturday, and again at the lunar eclipse on Saturday the 28th. First, the one for Ketu. Ketum kamvana ketave, pesho mariama peshase, samushad behira jayataha. You are the flag. Hold up your flag. Show us the road we can't see. Let the sun come up that lets us conquer our fear. This is straight out of the Rig Veda. Ketum means flag, like a war banner that you plant in a field to occupy a territory, but it is also translated comet or falling star. You're supposed to be able to see a flag very clearly, but this is the half of the dragon that has no eyes, and yet you're asking Ketu to be your eyes. It's kind of a reverse psychology. You're describing Ketu in the way that it isn't, and then it starts to behave that way. I'm going to say it a couple of more times, and you can repeat it after me so you can get comfortable with it. Ketum Kamvana Ketave, Pesha Mariama Pesha Se, Samushad Bihira Chayataya. Ketum Kamvana Ketave, Pesha Mariama Pesha Se, Samushad Bihira Jayataha. Ketum Kamvana Ketave, Pesha Mariama Pesha Se, Samushad Bihira Jayataha. And now, since we're roping in the awareness that will come with the lunar eclipse 2 weeks later, here is the corresponding invocation for Rahu. Chaya Chitra Abhuvaduti Sadavrta Sakha Chaya Sachishtaya Vrta. How can we make you resplendently clear, O friendly, ever prosperous messenger of the skies? How can we fulfill our heart's desire? This is also Rig Veda. Chaya, chaya. How do we do it? How do we become more like you? Again, this is reverse psychology. You're describing Rahu in the way that it isn't. And then it starts behaving that way. Couple of more times so you can get comfortable with it. Chaya Chitra Abhuvaduti Sadavrta Sakha Chaya Sachishtaya Vrta. Chaya Chitra Abhuvaduti Sadavrta Sakha Chaya Sachishtaya Vrta. Chaya Chitra Abhuvaduti Sadavrta Sakha Chaya Sachishtaya Vrta. And now we're all going to invite the shadow planets to bring us to true understanding of our own shadows by reciting their seed mantras 108 times. Trust me, that doesn't take as long as it sounds. It goes Om Kaim Ketave Ram Rahuve Namaha. I bow to Lords Ketu and Rahu, whose seed syllable is Kaim and Ram. Om Kaim Ketave Ram Rahuve Namaha. 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 Om Kaim Kitave 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 Ram Rahuve Namaha. Interesting effect, isn't it? Once you get going, you get to a point where you automatically go into a state of meditation and you're not saying the chant anymore. The chant is saying you. So we will now bring this circle to a close. We thank you, Lords Ketu and Rahu. We thank you, God of the sun. We thank you, Goddess of the moon. We thank you, divine beings, male, female, both and neither, for coming closer to us this night. May our eyes reflect your light, that we may see through the shadows. We do not dismiss you, for that would not be possible. We thank you for your wisdom and strength. All hail. Those generations yet to come, we thank you for joining us in this sneak preview of your next lives. We hope it will give you hidden wisdom when your time upon the stage arrives. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Those generations who brought us here, we thank you for joining us in this exploration of what your lives meant. We hope that what we have done this night will help bring you to peacefulness. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Guardians of the watchtowers of the north, spirits of earth, we thank you for joining us this night. Help us keep our heads and sure-footed as we walk through shadows. Standing firm and strong upon the stone. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Guardians of the watchtowers of the west, spirits of water, we thank you for joining us this night. Make our minds as still as a moonlit pond, that we may float upon a current of forgiveness, gently restoring truth and bliss to our souls. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Guardians of the watchtowers of the south, spirits of fire, we thank you for joining us this night. Grant us true will to know the source of our power, not driven by the past. To act with courage, not in hate or disgust. To act in faith, not fear nor rash impulse. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. And guardians of the watchtowers of the east, spirits of air, we thank you for joining us this night. Give us discernment to scrutinize our pains, to speak with kindness and detachment, and to tell false from true, seeing clearly through the smoke of illusion. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. This circle is open, but shall never be broken. Merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again. Thank you for joining me, and I hope this was all helpful to you and will continue to be helpful through the next weeks and months ahead. Have a good night.